So I just added all of the FBI reported crimes to the spreadsheet. The VIP patrons already have it, so if you're a VIP, you can actually go get it right now. It'll be available to all the standard patrons next weekend when I make my big post, but in the meantime, let's go over all the additions that this one update adds. We have population covered total offenses, arson, bribery, burglary, breaking and entering, counterfeiting and forgery, destruction damage, embezzlement, extortion and blackmail, fraud, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, robbery, and stolen property, all in that one update. But there's a lot with all of those that we probably should address, and how FBI reports it, how they calculate it, and all of that stuff. So let's get into Beyond the Clock. So for starters, the FBI actually has a crime data explorer that anybody can use. It's free on their website. And on their website, you can actually customize the type of data that you want and a date range and download it yourself. But the FBI doesn't actually get this information for themselves. They actually use agencies. And across the country, there are 11,794 of these agencies that all report from their municipalities to the FBI. And if you're on the Crime Data Explorer, you can actually scroll down to where it says Agency Participation Data. Click on that, and you can actually see what agencies are where and who reports. And as a result, one thing that I want to note about this information is even though you can take most of it at face value, essentially, there are a few things that you should know when analyzing this kind of data. Specifically, that Florida only has 2 agencies, and those 2 agencies don't actually report the amount of population that they're covering. And Florida is not the only state to have this problem, it's just the biggest culprit. In fact, now that we're sorting by number of participating locations, look at where California is. It's next to the bottom. The population covered in California for these FBI reports is only about 3 million people. That's just a little bit less than 10% of the population of California. Compare that to Texas, which has over 1,000 locations and is covering 28 million people, pretty much all of their population. And for an example, here's what the actual population looks like right next to the population covered by the FBI. Most of them look almost the same when it comes to scale, but there are a lot of exceptions, specifically New York, California, and of course Florida. And as you can guess, that affects our total offenses. Let's sort by actual population instead of FBI population. And yeah, look at that. You see how California and Florida are in the green in almost all of these total offenses categories? That's because they're not recording crimes from that much of the population. And we can actually, from this point of view, see a lot of the outliers. We can see New Jersey, we can see Maryland, to a lesser extent Mississippi. And when we move over to per capita rates, you can see that the outliers are affected in per capita, but not nearly as much. And this is just another example why per capita is so important to statistical analysis. What a lot of people don't know is almost all of the data that we get from government offices or independent researchers, pretty much everywhere, it's all incomplete in some way. In some cases, it was taken all at different times of the year. In some cases, it sampled different sizes in population or different demographics in population. And that's part of the reason why, if you're looking to measure something, it's important to measure it from multiple different places and from multiple different times. And it's important to make sure that the data that you're collecting is scalable in some way. You need to make sure that you can adjust it for whatever it is you're looking for. And in the case of these FBI numbers that we pulled from the FBI website, almost every state but California and Florida can be adjusted for population. And in some cases, states like California or New Jersey technically are able to be adjusted for population using these stats, but you should take them with a grain of salt. And lastly, this is why a lot of people falsely claim that states like California don't actually charge people for their crimes. There are a lot of conservative analysts that look at data like this and assume that since agencies are not reporting them, that these people are not getting charged. But if they did a little bit more research, they can find places like PPIC that actually individually research different counties in California and find accurate crime rates. And all across the country, there are individual researchers like myself who individually grab the information that they need to find out more about the data that they're looking for. But the problem happens when you stop and look at raw data without analyzing it in any way, without adjusting it or without taking it into consideration how that data was collected and from where and when. Anyway, thanks for checking out Beyond the Clock. Make sure to like and subscribe. Check out my TikTok channel if you haven't been there yet, and follow along for more.